Hello YouTubers, you're on all new PCDC, and I just got done seeing Arrow Season 6. Yeah, I've been a fan of Arrow ever since its premiere in 2012. It's had some highs, and it has some lows. And Season 5 has such a crazy cliffhanger that I was curious to see where this season would go. Ultimately, in a broad sense, this season was highly disappointing to me. The writing was lazy, the characters were not consistent, and this is maybe perhaps one of the weaker seasons, if not the weakest season. It's on par with season 4 for me. It may in fact be worse because this season did not know what it was doing. It was everywhere. It had some good moments, and the later half really picked up with Ricardo Diaz's storyline, but ultimately it was just a lackluster season. We had Oliver Queen deal with being a father now to William, him being mayor, and he steps down at the beginning. We have John Diggle take the mantle, and that's where some of the problems lead. He's injured from Lian Yu, and he's not telling the team. There's a lot of secrets, and I don't like the beginning half. Towards the later half, the newbies need to go. The sidekicks are super annoying. They're very condescending to Oliver, and they're just annoying. Every character's characteristics are not consistent. They go from being allies to being enemies. It just feels like a really bad soap opera. You have Wild Dog, who I loved in Season 5. He was very accurate to the comic book. He has better armor here, but Renee's not given much to do. We have him rat out to Oliver Queen, other stuff like that, him getting injured. Mr. Terrific is there, but he's nowhere near the comic book Mr. Terrific. I love Dinah Lance as Canary, but the way the writing is here just really diminishes her character. I just don't like the writing for her here. And there's a revenge plot. We find out Vigilante was her boyfriend that we thought died in the flashbacks of Season 5. Canary... Black Siren ultimately kills him. We have Laurel from Earth 2. That's another thing. Why couldn't they say Laurel faked her death? We have to have other worlds, which isn't bad, but the Berlanti Arrowverse makes other worlds, the multiverse, seem so damn confusing compared to the comics. They convolute it much more than it needs to be. And we also have Michael Emerson as Caden James. He's not your typical bad guy, but I loved him in this. As a matter of fact, he was severely underutilized in this season. He's such a terrific actor. I loved him in Lost. I'm a big fan of his Joker voice from The Dark Knight Returns. So seeing Oliver go against a very intelligent villain that uses his brains instead of brawn was something very different. And we have other villains join him. And they get rid of him halfway through. His backstory is so interesting. It's heartbreaking. And then we're introduced to Ricardo Diaz. Kirk Acevedo as Ricardo Diaz. He's a good actor here. I like his performance, but I don't like the writing, and I don't find him believable. He is a low-level thug who rose his way up the ranks to basically take over the city, corrupted in many ways. But the way he looks, the way he fights, it's just such a downgrade. And for Oliver to be afraid of this guy, it's just unbelievable. I can understand it with the corruption in the city, but when it comes time for that physical fight, it's total bullshit. You're telling me this low-level thug who's like overweight can beat Oliver Queen, who's fought not only the Dark Archer, Slade Wilson Deathstroke, Ra's al Ghul, Damien Dark, and Prometheus? Come the hell off of that, man. It's just totally unbelievable, and it's a disservice because I actually like some of the backstory with Diaz. I like his performance, how intimidating he can be physically. It's just, I think the execution of those ideas and his fight towards Arrow are just really way off. And Arrow sometimes does let Ricardo Diaz beat him, but come on. They just made Arrow very weak against this villain, and he wasn't very compelling. He's one of the weaker villains. I felt like Damien Dark, for all that crazy magic stuff in Season 4, was a far more menacing and threatening villain. And yeah, it's cool that they let him live at the end, but ultimately I'm just like, why? That was like one of the most uninteresting characters that I just wish they would get rid of. Get rid of him, the newbies, and just keep it with the original Team Arrow. That's all we need. We also had the crossover. Crisis on Earth X wasn't bad, but we had Felicity and Oliver pretty much ambush Iris and Barry's wedding nuptials. And when they got married, I didn't feel anything. Like Season 4 and 3, I was feeling something with Felicity and Oliver. And here, they're married, and it's just like, oh, they're married. I don't feel anything. That was supposed to be like a big event, and yet it just feels like it was just an afterthought, you know? But besides the stuff with the newbies, I do like the stuff with Roy, the deal with Thea, they know what to do with Detective Lance. Detective Lance, they actually utilize him in a very good way, ultimately to his send-off here. But we also have Laurel, and Laurel I didn't like as Black Siren at first, but she kind of grew on me, and I kind of hope they keep her as an ally now. Maybe we can have Birds of Prey. But it left some interesting questions for the Longbow Hunters and Supermax being used. Supermax was an idea that was going to be used in 2007. They didn't make that Green Arrow film. And the Side Slab was something mentioned in Season 4. It's where Damien Dark got his totem, so we'll have to see. Ultimately, there's a lot of interesting questions, but this season was just everywhere. Another highlight I forgot to mention was Deathstroke's return. He should have been there much longer. The first half of the season was really well done with him. And his son, that was a great episode. Some fighting that rival Daredevil on Netflix. I really loved that episode and that arc. Yeah, Arrow was a bit of hit and miss this season. I personally did not enjoy it. I know a lot of people do love it. I just didn't like the sidekick stuff, and as interesting as Ricardo Diaz could be, I feel like the execution for his villain fell short a bit. And because of that, I think it's one of the weaker seasons, if not the weakest season. So I give it a 2 out of 5. I was severely disappointed with Arrow. I hope it continues to be a good show in Season 7. But this season just made me not give a care. After the brilliance of Season 5, this is just really bad. I hope they get back to basics in the next season. But it has some highlights. It's just the overall story felt like it was just everywhere. And I think the writers have failed this show. Anyway, let me know your personal thoughts on Arrow Season 6. What are some of your favorite seasons? Just let me know in the comments below. I enjoyed this, but I didn't like it compared to the last one, and I think it could have been a better season, even with the stuff they had. Definitely get rid of the newbies, though. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe. You can follow me at Stardust, Twitter, and Facebook. Till next time.